Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of our virtual summit, How to Win in a Chaotic Economy. Now, today's speaker is Brian Gillis. He is amazing. He has such a rich history in our auto repair industry. He has done every job you can imagine in the auto repair industry. And today he is a coach. He is the owner of UNet Results. He is a brilliant instructor, and I'm so thrilled to have him share his wisdom with us. Yay, Brian Gillis!
Well,
Hey,
thank you so much for having me at your virtual summit. I'm very happy to be here. Wow. When Jennifer asked me to do this, I started thinking about the title of, a chaotic economy and so tying that back into kind of my experiences. My angle today and what I'm going to talk about, the title is, stop thinking from your own wallet. And like Jennifer mentioned, I've done a little bit of everything, but the vast amount of my experience has been a multi-unit operator. So I've ran stores all over the country. And so a lot of times the way for me to kind of measure and take a look at what's going on inside these shops, I'd have to do audits. And so part of my auditing process would be to actually go through a day's business and review invoices and work orders. I would, basically we called it a bag, which was just like one of those big yellow envelopes that would house all of our invoices for the day. And attached to those would be work orders, the schedule maintenance, the technician write-up, and so forth. But a lot of times what I would find out as I am going through these daily bag audits and looking at these invoices, I would see, unfortunately, oftentimes where the technician's taken the time to inspect the vehicle, they've looked it over thoroughly, and they've made recommendations. They turn it into the service advisor, and somehow or another, the service advisor takes it upon themselves not to present what was written up to the customer. And so when I start asking questions, I ask these advisors, I'm sitting down with them, I'm going, well, what happened on this particular repair? Why didn't we make these recommendations that the technician wrote up? And oh man, the customer was just done. Like they were tapped out. Yeah, the repair bill was already up to $2,500, and I really didn't feel comfortable, presenting more repair work to them because they're already at, this X number of dollars. And now understand that, the way that our stores operated is we would focus in on the isolation first, the main issue the customer brought it in. For example, if their car is overheating, that would be our main focus. But it was also our mission that every single vehicle that came through, we would do a preventative maintenance inspection on it. And so once we repaired the initial concern that the customer had, of course, we would let the customer know, hey, we're going to go ahead and get started on these repairs. Also, once we retest your vehicle, we're going to do a complete maintenance inspection just to make sure there's no other concerns or anything that you need to be aware of. And so that's our PMI process. And it was our goal that we did a maintenance inspection on every single vehicle that came through the shop. And so this is what I would find sometimes when I'm going through daily business. And so these advisors would tell me, the customer was done, or, they were tapped out, they just, the repair bill was already too high. And so my question to them will be, well, how did you know? I mean, how do you know that they're done? Because really, truly, they didn't. And what was going on is they're thinking from their own wallet. They're making that decision for the customer. And as service advisors, we don't have the right to do that. So, I came up with an exercise that I love doing with the different teams out there, and that you all as shop owners can do with your teams. You can do it with your front counter team. You can also include your technicians. Everybody kind of gets it. And so today we're going to do that exercise here, just to kind of get a little bit of a taste, and hopefully it'll be an eye opener for everyone. And then, of course, at the same time, something that they can watch, learn, and then utilize at their very own repair shop and play the same game. Because it's, you want to make training fun. But it's also important in my mind, to get buy-in. one thing we can do is we can, you have to do it like this because that's just the way it is. Or we can show, some real value to here's why we do this. People's light bulbs go off, and now you got their buy-in, and it's so much easier when people get it than when they're doing something because it's just their job. And so hopefully this will help kind of us get it. So what I've done here, is I've got a list of items that I'm going to go with some people on this virtual summit that I'm going to ask of, and I'm going to include myself. And what we're going to do is we're going to go around, and I've got some items. And what my question to I'm going to ask for Chris, Jennifer, Renee, and myself. We're going to talk about, one at a time, what we feel is a lot to spend on a particular item. All right. And so what the very first item is a pair of men's dress shoes. So the question is what is a lot to spend on a pair of men's dress shoes? And so I want to get an answer back from the three people plus myself. I'm going to give my answer as well. And you all, whenever you're ready, I can get those answers from you. What is a lot to spend on a pair of men's dress shoes? So I guess I'll start with Chris.
For me, I would say $120. That's a lot for me to spend on a pair of dress shoes.
All right. And then Jennifer, what's your number?
I would say 300.
300. All right. And then Renee, what do you feel is a lot to spend on a pair of men's dress shoes?
Probably about 150.
150. And for me, my number is 250. So I'm going to write that down as well. And I'm logging this as we go, because what we're going to do when we get through this is we're going to talk about it. And some of it I think will be pretty revealing. And so now we'll move on to our next question, and which is what would be a lot to spend on a pair of ladies' dress shoes? And so, Chris, what would your answer be to that one?
Ooh, a lady's pair of shoes. Gosh, I think they're obviously a bit more crafted and more expensive than men's shoes. So I'd say probably in the neighborhood about 250.
All right. And then Jennifer?
Well, my shoes and what other ladies are willing to spend are completely different. but
Yeah.
but I am willing to spend a max of 300, but I have seen some that are 1,000 and I just balk at it. But yeah.
Right. Okay, excellent. And then thanks for sharing. And then Renee, for your idea, what's your idea of a lot to spend on a pair of women's dress shoes, ladies' dress shoes?
Just probably double my amount. 300 is probably a good starting point, but 300, I think.
300. Okay,
Yeah.
great. And for me, my number's about $400. My wife likes shoes, and so if I do, I know she likes some, the nicer ones. We don't get to wear them here lately much, of course she doesn't, and with the whole pandemic going on. But when we do get to go out to dinner and dancing, then that's typically around the neighborhood of it. All right, so the next one is the next item, right, is a new laptop computer. A new laptop computer. So we can start kind of thinking about that. And Chris, what would your number be on what's a lot to spend, or your threshold on a new laptop?
Well, I like the one I'm with now. I bought in 2016, and I bought it a year old because it was like all the bells and whistles I wanted, but I just had to do a little bit of upgrading to it. So all in all, it was about $1,000.
Okay.
But I would consider, like, if I was good getting, now that I've got a decent job and I can kind of do things with money, I would consider to be 2,500 to be like the absolute limit I would spend on a laptop that did all the things I wanted to do.
Okay. So today, current circumstances, $2,500 is kind of your number.
Yes, sir.
All right. Excellent. And then Jennifer, what would your number be on what's a lot to spend on a new laptop computer?
Let's see. So I'm primarily a desktop user, which has the printer and it's like, more stuff. So I'm more willing to spend the bigger bucks on my desktop than a laptop, but for a laptop purposes, I am an Apple user, so let's just say 3,000. I'm seeing a trend in my numbers. Three is
The threes.
I know, it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's what's interesting that's, already just during our discussion as we're sharing our numbers is you're getting, and I appreciate that feedback, what leads you to your number. And I like that because that's when we think about this, let's almost think about it in how our customers might think about it when we're presenting auto repair. And so Renee, for you, what's your number on a laptop computer? What would be a lot to spend for you?
The most I've ever spent, if I can recall, is probably about $1,500, and that was for a PC back in maybe 15 years ago.
Okay.
So going along with that, I'm probably in the 2,000 range.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And then for me, maybe I'm behind the times. My number that I wrote down is 1,200. It's pretty much, I'm running a Dell laptop. I do use a laptop. That's what I'm on right now. It's just kind of, I've just gotten the habit of using a laptop. So it's my main, I don't even own a desktop, and I might have to look into upgrading after hearing you guys. But the next
Right?
one is a watch. Okay. And, we're going to say, a dress watch. Okay. Because it did come out I was doing this exercise once before, and then I got asked, well, you mean a dress watch or like an everyday watch? So what's a lot to spend on a nice dress watch? And I'll start off, of course, again with Mr. Chris.
I'm probably the wrong person to ask this question because my thought of wearing a dress watch is just something that looks fairly pretty, but I will never bother using it because I'll be using my cell phone anyways. So I would spend no more than $150, which is like going to be the lowest crazy amount. But yeah,
Okay.
$150 would be my limit.
And I'll tell you what, Chris, everybody's the right person to ask because I like the fact that that's what we have to understand is like everybody's a little different, right? We're not all the same, so and that's okay. There's no wrong answer. For you, Jennifer, what would be a lot to spend on a dress watch?
Great question. Not that I've been in the market lately, but I think of Rolexes, and I think of the Invictas. Renee will hint about his watch collection, hopefully. But I recognize that certain watches do have just a lot of handcrafted, the really nice ones. They are, so I think $1,000 would be what I would spend max, but I recognize that doesn't even touch some of the really high quality, but we're not there yet. It's not like I'm driving a Ferrari either.
There you go. I get it. Yeah, there's some watches out there that you could cost as much as a house. That's ridiculous in some people's opinion. So Renee, how about yourself? You're a watch collector, eh?
Well, kind of, and I know the watches you're talking about. They have this tourbillon that's like got the night sky on one side, and it's hand engraved gold or silver on the inside. That's like a $1.2 million watch. There's only maybe one of them made, and even that's old. But I liked the watches for. At one point, I was really into them. But yeah, I think I've personally spent the most is about $375 on a nice dress watch.
Okay.
So that would be my max, 375.
375. All righty.
Yeah.
And I'm not I admire the Rolexes and they're really nice too. And I've got, friends of mine that they wear them all the time.
Sure.
Me personally, not there yet either. And I don't know if I ever would be, but I do, usually I'm wearing like an Apple Watch, but I have some dress watches and I'll say my number is probably about 1,500. All right. And, okay. So now we're going to switch to, I've got a couple of these.
By the way, this is a really fun exercise. I'm enjoying
It is fun
Yeah.
when shop owners get around and they do this with their team. It's a fun exercise to do, and it's very we'll see at the end how it kind of all comes together here. And so the next one is a smartphone. This is going to be probably closer in range with one another, but let's find out. So Chris, what's a lot to spend on a new smartphone?
Ooh, The most that I would personally pay is $1,500.
All right. And then Jennifer, what would you say is a lot to spend on a new smartphone? Your threshold.
Okay, so whatever they're charging for the iPhone 12, which is next on my list. However, I'm going to be leasing it
Mm-hmm.
and or seeking a discount of some sort.
Sure.
So I'm happy to get it, but if I can save a little bit of money, oh, it's a win-win for me.
All right. So what do you think that number may end up being when you're all done negotiating for that new iPhone 12?
I have no idea. I don't know. Let's just, well, I don't even know what the price is. But let's just say 15% off of whatever that is. So what is that? 1,100? I have no idea really.
Okay, well, we'll write down 1,100. I don't know. My son wants one of those for Christmas as well. We'll see. But yeah, I know they're up there, and those Apple phones are up there in the
And for me,
$1,000 range.
it's expense. So here's the deal. I'm going to pay for it regardless of what it costs because it's a business expense. So it's very
Sure.
important for me to have that kind of computing power in my palm of my hand. So yeah.
All right, fair enough. And so I wrote down 1,100 for you, and then Renee, what's your number on? What's got a lot to spend on a new smartphone?
It would be the last one I got, which is the one I currently have, which is one of those Apple phones that's got the 3 cameras in it, and I think that was a $1,200 investment.
All right, you're at 12.
Investment.
There you go. And I'm with Chris. I'm at about 1,500. I imagine that's, I don't buy new phones every year they come out. I probably wait, I guess, a couple, 2 or 3 phones come out, and then I'll go ahead and do another one. But I usually do, when I do that, I get the one that's with the best one that they have available with the most memory. My hands are big, so I usually get the bigger phone. I don't know if that changes the price, but typically, so that's usually where I'm at. I don't get them, I don't renew them often, as some people I know some people that when the new one comes out, they're in line. They get the new one every year or whenever they come out. For me, I like to skip. My current phone's like the iPhone 8. I'll hang on to it for a little bit while longer because it's still, working well. So, but when the new one comes out, probably after the 12 is when I'll jump on and get whatever the nicest one is. So that's kind of my number. Now we're going to go to a different category of an item. And this one is a pair of sunglasses. A pair of sunglasses. And so for you, Chris, what is your threshold? What's your number for a pair of sunglasses?
I'm coming off of this thing so cheap. It's going to be $50. That's the most.
Okay, very good. And then Jennifer, how about yourself?
Because I get it. I totally get it. Cheap is good, Chris. Don't worry, honey. It's good. So now that I have progressive lenses and I have old lady eyes, and I also have to get anti-glare, polarized. So I think the last amount that I spent on my sunglasses, because they're prescription, is about 600.
Okay.
Let's just say 650 because I think of tax or whatever.
All right. Very good, very good. And then Renee, how about you? What's a lot to spend on a new pair of sunglasses?
I think the last pair I had, which is a couple of years old, was really nice that I liked, were a pair of aviator Ray-Bans, and whatever that was, I want to say it was easily like maybe $200, and I got it off with a sale for some percentage, but let's just say $200.
Okay. And you and I are in the same boat on those aviator Ray-Bans. That's kind of me. I don't wear a prescription yet. These are for readers, but to see my laptop and my paperwork. But yeah, so for sunglasses, for me, my with those Ray-Ban aviators, that's about the same for me. I'll spend about 250 to 300 on a
There you
pair
go.
of sunglasses. And I will also add that I may have more than one pair. I may have 2 or 3 pair until I break one or lose one, and then I might get another one. So I have a couple different options. that sounds crazy? I guess we're all a little, we're all a little different, right? So then, pardon me. The next one is, this will get you thinking a little bit. What's a lot to spend on a family pet? A family pet. And so, Chris, what would you consider a lot on a family pet?
Well, we'll ignore the whole rescue thing altogether. Just say we're investing in the family pet. Let's say $1,000.
Okay. And then Jennifer, what's a lot for you? You would say, ooh, that's a lot on a family pet.
Okay, so now I got to ask some questions. Is this our annual spend on the pet? Is this how much we buy the pet for? Is this the veterinary bills on the pet? Like, where are you going with this one? Because the numbers are all over across the board for me.
Good question. And so this would be what you initially pay to purchase the animal. It wouldn't even have to do with any kind of upkeep or feeding them or any of that. Veterinary visits, just solely, just the price of purchasing the whether bird, dog, cat, whatever it may be.
Got it. Okay, so keep in mind that I was raised by a pack of collies. My mom is actually a collie breeder, so we had champion show dogs my entire life. So I do like pretty dogs. When it's time for us to get a corgi or a sheltie, I would spend $750 on the animal. But I would want it to be pedigreed. I would want it to actually be a finished champion, and it would be an older dog that is retired from show, so I would get it in its senior years.
Excellent. All right, very good. And then Renee, for you, same category, same item. What would be a lot to spend for you for a family pet?
I guess maybe $250.
Okay.
I mean, it's such a number I've thrown out there because I've never had to buy a pet. I've always had free pets. So I know food costs a lot for them and vet bills, but let's just say $250.
Good. That's a good fair number.
Right, like our last few cats have been neighborhood cats that adopted us. So yeah, they're free, but their medical isn't.
That's it. I've had, doing this exercise in the past, I've had some really big numbers, $5,000. Some people really love their pets, and they money is no object when it comes down to their pet. And there might be some shop owners out there listening to this, and they're thinking, oh, my number's way up here. And so when you do this exercise, you'll find out it can be a lot of fun to find out some of these variations. But for me, boy, I've had to always negotiate these pet prices. I've got 2 kids and my wife everybody is big pet owners. And so what I think's a lot to spend drives down the price of what we ultimately end up buying compared to what they want to get. And so for me, my number is going to be kind of similar to Renee's. I'd say about $350. I consider is a lot to spend on a family pet.
I'm kind of curious, how is your little bird, and how much did your little bird cost?
Okay, so that bird, it did cost $400, maybe about $450 altogether with the cage. So just the bird by itself would have been right around that neighborhood, and he's good. He's great.
Cute.
What's that?
He's so cute. I keep hoping that he'll just make an appearance and end up on your shoulder.
Well, I may have to go make that happen here in just a second. I'll do that. Good. And then, all right. So the next item, this is different because now we're talking about a gift, a birthday gift for a good friend, a birthday gift for a good friend. And so, Chris, what would your number be? What's a lot to spend on a birthday gift for a good friend?
I can answer this because I just did this. About $250.
$250. All right. And then, Jennifer, what's a lot to spend on a birthday gift for a good friend?
I'm with Chris. I think 250 is a really good number.
Okay. All right. 250. And then Renee, what's your number on, what's a lot to spend for a birthday gift for a good friend?
I'd say For me, $100.
$100. All right.
Yeah, about $100.
All right. And then, that's about my number, $100. And boy, I hope I don't sound too cheap if any of my friends are out there listening. But,
No,
I,
you're
yeah, that's kind of my number. Try to, when I do go out shopping for a friend, birthday gift, I mean, I'm trying to look for something around that price range, about $100. So there you go. The next one, we might get some interesting things come out of this one. The next one is a bottle of wine. A bottle of wine. And so, Chris, for you, what's a lot to spend on a bottle of wine?
I will buy no more wine that is more than $25.
25 bucks. All
That's
right.
it. That's my limit.
Okay, that's great. That's great. And then how about you, Jennifer? What's your number on a bottle of wine?
okay. There's the reality wine, and then there's the oh my god, this is priceless. It's so special. I'll spend anything. So those rarely come about. So no, let's just go with the normal because it's kind of like the Rolexes, right? Like how often are you going to do it? You can buy some darn fine wine for under 20 bucks. So let's just say 20 bucks. But I have been known to spend $80 on a bottle of wine if I really liked it. So let me change it. 80 bucks is my max if it's something I just really like.
Good, good, good. That's good. And then Renee, how about yourself?
$2 Chuck.
$2?
No, I'm kidding. 20 bucks. $20.
Some
Yeah,
Mad Dog, some Mad
$20.
Dog 2020.
I would say about $20. Yeah.
About 20. All right.
Yeah.
Now, me personally, I'm not a wine drinker per se. I like the beers and the lagers. But if I'm gonna buy like a bottle of wine, maybe I might be bringing it over as for dinner as a gift or something like that. And so I usually, when I do look, it's gonna typically be, probably around $50 for a bottle. I have bought them as gifts. That around that $100 range of was the I can't even remember the name of the brand now, but that's somebody that is a friend of mine that's more of a wine connoisseur. I don't know why I keep thinking Cake Bread might have been the brand or something like.
Good brand, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, and that's always got well received. They always are, hey man, that was a great bottle of wine. All right, so now how about this one? So we got a couple more to go, and then we'll do a little discussing about it. The next one is going to the chiropractor and having a chiropractic adjustment done on your back. So, Chris, for you, what would your amount be on what would be a lot to spend on a chiropractic adjustment?
I've actually never ever gotten chiropractic adjustment, so I'm just going to kind of guess and say the limit where I'd say, yeah, okay, I can't do that. Even though I might be in pain and need it, would be $250. That'd be my limit.
Good. And it's okay. That's, one of the reasons I have a variety of different things is I'm actually hoping for whoever's participating in the exercise, maybe there's something out there they've never done before. That's why I got a man's pair of shoes and a woman's pair of shoes, because, typically we're only going to buy one or the other. But, I like the idea of, because a lot of times with our customers, they're coming in, they may never have bought a catalytic converter before. They have no idea. Or maybe they've never had to replace their upper and lower radiator hoses, for example. And so even if it's something you've never done, that's why I ask it. I'm glad to hear that you have a number in your mind, what you think would be a lot for something. And then Jennifer, how about you? What would your number be for a chiropractic adjustment?
Okay, so I do see a chiropractor regularly. I go twice per week, sometimes 3 per week. And fortunately for me, I do it on trade. So I do his marketing, I get free chiropractic adjustment. However, I do know that it's a $40 per visit. So let's just say 10 visits per month. So that's a $400 budget per month.
Okay, so $400 a month. Okay.
Mhm.
And then that you say 40 per visit typically?
Yes.
Kind of.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. And then Renee, how about yourself?
Well, I'm in the same boat with Jen. I
Okay.
go probably a half to maybe 1/3 as many times as she does. So that seems to be the average for us. And I'm not sure if that is uh, included with some of the trade that we do. But I think, if I were to need, something that's to be corrected, because you just don't go for one treatment, you have to
Mhm.
figure out, well, this is going to be a 6-week treatment, like Jen says, or 10 times a month. You got to figure out what that tally is in a month. So, um, because it's my health, I'm in that range of what Jen was saying,
Okay.
maybe slightly less. Maybe I wouldn't go as much. So maybe I might be at maybe 250 a month.
Okay.
So, uh,
Good. Okay. From my personal experience on my end, as far as the chiropractic I've gone, um, but then when I do, it's like if my back's bother me or I got like this crick in my neck, I will go. I'm the one time guy. Like I don't do it like for a bunch of visits. I'll just go and they'll do their get me, and I'll be like, oh, that's great. And then I may see one every 6 months. Um, but typically, with experience, I would say for me, my number's around $60 is what I would spend. And maybe it's because I only go once and I don't book it out. I probably get a better deal if I went for a few more in a row. All right, now the very last one is a home theater system, a surround sound home theater system for your house or your entertainment room. What would be a lot to spend, Chris, for you on a home theater system? Not including just the surround sound.
Just the sound, not like television, all that stuff.
Yeah,
Uh, $500.
500. All right. And then Jennifer, what for you, what would be a lot to spend on the surround sound?
So now we're going to see the thing that I don't care about. So I'd say 20 bucks. That's not
All
my place,
right.
my happy place, but like Renee, of course, can counter it.
There you go, that balance, right? What's your number,
yeah,
Renee?
yeah, I would say I'm not as I'm not an expert in this area, but I've seen some really good ones. But I don't really know what the cost would be. But as far as for me, I guess my number is going to be based on the importance of it, and maybe $100.
Okay.
Yeah, $100 for a system, and your 5.1, whatever, surround sound, however that works out. I
Yeah.
would spend no more than 100 on some watered down version probably of that setup.
Okay. And then for me, going to my number is going to be around $300 on a surround sound system. I do want something greater than what the TV does alone, maybe a little subwoofer. And so for me, that's my number. It's about 300. All right. And so Renee, just as a reminder, your number you said was 100.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
All
would say
right.
100.
So now, okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about these just a little bit. I'm going to also share this to you. Like these numbers may not mean much to you in the terms of your ability to sell your products or services, but if you sold these specific items for a living, they would, because each number would represent a limiting force in your ability to offer and recommend items that exceeds that amount. It's a phenomenon that we call selling from our own wallet or thinking from your own wallet. And when that happens to service advisors, that's one of the biggest limiting forces that can take place is when they start wanting to think what somebody else feels is a lot of money. And so we did this exercise, and there's some things I want. Now let's talk about them a little bit. We got the first one we talked about was a pair of men's dress shoes, and we have ranges that go from as low as $120 up to as high as $300. Okay, so right there from the very first one we talked about with two different people, what we see is that one person's willing to spend over double what another person considers a lot to spend. Okay, then what we see when we look at ladies' shoes, it was a lot closer. We didn't have any duplicates, but we had a range from anywhere from $250 to $400. And so that is a significant difference, on what two different people's opinions are. When we get to a new laptop computer, now we have a range of anywhere from $1,200 on the low side as high as $3,000 on the high end of what somebody is willing to spend. And we got to hear kind of what folks' thought process is when they come up with their number. You hear things like, well, I need it for my business, right? And so that can make a difference. Chris mentioned, where he is today compared to when he bought his last computer. Things are different. He'd reach out and spend more on one today than he would have, say, 5 years ago. And so we still have a variance, if not quite triple, but almost triple when we look at a new laptop computer. And then we have watches. So we go anywhere on watches. We have a range from $150, which Chris was 150. I said 1,500. That's our range. That's a 10-time difference. 10 times difference between what Chris feels like is a lot compared to what I feel like is a watch. But keep in mind, we're talking about for a wristwatch, a dress wristwatch. Okay. When we get to the family pet, we have ranges from anywhere from $250, which Renee mentioned, as high as $1,000, which is what Chris mentioned. And, so that's 4 times as much. And one thing I want to point out on this particular one right here is that when we look at these numbers coming across, the same individual that will spend the least on a pair of shoes will spend the most on a pet out of this group. So it's not a determination of how much money an individual has. It's what they're willing to spend for that item. And that's what's important to keep in mind, because we all have a different line in the sand. And if you're a service advisor and you're worried and scared about ever stepping across that line with the customer, you're going to continually limit yourself from your true potential, because we don't know if that line in the sand is where my line is, or where Chris's line is, or if it's where Renee or Jennifer's line is. They're all different. And so we can't ever make that decision for the customer. So let's move on. We got the next one, which is, got my pieces of paper a little out of order here, but the next one is going to be a smartphone. These were pretty relatively close, from $1,100 range to $1,500 range. And Chris, again, he's a guy, he'll spend a lot on a new smartphone, but maybe not so much on, a pair of sunglasses, which is the next one. $50 on a pair of sunglasses. Jennifer's glasses are prescription, so that's a little bit different. But if we don't look at that one, we still have a range just from Chris to Renee, a 4-time multiple. For Renee, it's $200, nice pair of aviator Ray-Bans, and for Chris, it's $50. Okay, and so look, we see these variations going on here on what's a lot to spend. And so if we think about it from terms of our mindset, if you're if you're working with a client, we can't really decide what that individual thinks is a lot to spend for, say, a front brake job or a new set of tires. And so we don't know. And this exercise kind of reinforces that we just don't know. And so just between Chris and Renee on a new pair of sunglasses, a 4-time difference on that number. And then we get into a birthday gift for a friend. Okay. And so a couple folks mentioned that their number's kind of like $250, what they would spend for a good friend on their birthday. And then we had 2 of us come in at $100. Again, this isn't a measure of how much cash we have the ability to spend. It's just what we feel like is a lot to spend. And when you see, a lot of times what we see when we do these exercises is that somebody will spend a lot of money over here, but they won't spend anything over here. they'll spend a lot over here and they won't see anything over here, you know, so it's going to vary again from each consumer. Bottle of wine, we had variations from $20 to $80, again, a 4-time difference on what's a lot to spend. You know, the chiropractic adjustments, we were talking about those also. And, you know, we got to talking about like the kind of a monthly value and stuff, which is kind of cool. But, you know, you got Chris, who's never been, he thinks 250 would be a lot. And then if you look at mine was $60. And then we have, you know, Jennifer and Renee are typically spending about 40 per visit, but they go monthly. They go throughout the course of a month, so they're going to spend more, around the neighborhood of close to 400 a month or so, or something similar to that number. And the last one that we talked about was a theater surround sound system for your home. And then we've got $20 range for somebody who that's just not something that's important to that individual, up to a $500 range. And so again, it's just what's important to somebody to spend. Now, car repair is important to a lot of us. It's not, it means more to others than it may for some. You start weighing in other factors that we may not know about, like how important is this their vehicle for their career or for their job, and that we've seen through this exercise that weighs in on that. But hopefully, by doing this exercise with your team, you can do it with your advisors and your technicians. It'll help them have a different mindset when they start trying to decide for the customer. You know, I'll tell you guys a true story. As I'm going through these bag audits, like I mentioned at the beginning, I had run across one where it was a Honda Odyssey minivan, and it needed the initial repair. Failure was a catalytic converter and oxygen sensors, and it was like a $2,500 repair. But the technician, once he completed the repair and the engine light went out, he did his test drive and his complete maintenance inspection on the vehicle, and he had recommended, you know, front struts and you know, rear shocks. The tires on his notes were starting to develop some irregular wear. The vehicle had 120,000 miles on it, and it was overdue for new struts and shocks. And there's nowhere on the invoice where the advisor mentioned that to the customer. And so when that happens, you know, number one, your technicians aren't real happy because they're spending their time to, you know, document their findings. And when the advisor makes the decision not to talk to the customer about it because they think that it's too much expensive of a repair, or that's going to escalate the price to a number that the advisor doesn't feel comfortable with, that's what we want to erase out of our brain and stop thinking from our personal wallets as advisors, and realize that everybody has a different line in the sand for what they feel is important. And so right now I'm happy to take any questions, if there's any questions about the material that I covered.
Well, actually, you know what? I've got a really great story to add on to your story.
Right.
Renee drives a 2006 Scion. I drive a 2011 Mini Cooper Countryman. Renee needs to get his smog testing done, but he's had the check engine light. I've been the one traditionally taking care of both vehicles. Our longtime client, Robert Wiesenberg, owns Robert's Collision Repair. However, they have gone away from mechanical to strictly auto body. So we've had to find a new mechanic, which is like, what? Because he's still a client. It's just that he's not doing mechanical anymore. So it's like, So we tested out this new garage to us. It's Wayside Garage in Seaside. And I wanted to test them out because I know them personally, but I had never been a customer. And so Renee was our guinea pig. His Scion needed service. And they printed out a beautiful report, DVI, the whole thing. They showed the codes, like it was a beautiful report. And I didn't see it until we went and picked it up yesterday. But here's the scoop. The total bill that we got and I paid for was $821. But then I saw all of the recommended pieces. Now, I don't know why Renee didn't say yes to all the recommended stuff. I don't know what their conversation it consisted of because I wasn't on it. But had they suggested that they just take care of the whole dang car, I would have completely paid for that entire thing, no questions asked, because I want to protect my husband and I want to protect myself when I'm inside that thing. Right. So anyway, so it's just interesting because yeah, if they had asked me what to do with the car, it probably would have been about a $3,000 repair job, which is fine because he as we can see from this exercise, which is kind of fun, I'm more willing to spend that kind of money. So I guess the rule is ask the woman, folks. Ask the woman.
Well, it doesn't always go that way because sometimes it could be the other way around where the husband's the one who's willing to spend a lot of money on a car repair and the wife's not. I've had it happen. I've had it
Right?
happen both ways. I've had, this is a true story, golly. So this is at the very beginning of my career, and I'm running a shop in Sugar Land, Texas. And, typically whenever we're taking in a customer, we want to get as many phone numbers as possible. And so that way, if we can't reach them at the initial number, we can try a second or third number. And this was more when cell phones were newer and everybody still kind of had a landline. So you want to get as many phone numbers. You get that work number, the cell phone, and the home. So I get these phone numbers for this gentleman, and he brings his car in. We go through, we do our due diligence, we make our recommendation. Actually, we put together the estimate I'm going to present to the customer. And so I reach out, I call, I guess, the first number without success, no answer. The second number without success, no answer. Then the third number, this gentleman, his wife answered the phone, went through our entire presentation. She authorized all the work to be done. We did all the repair work. Later on that evening, the husband shows up. He's extremely upset. This is one of the rare times anything like this has happened. We were super, super busy that day, and we had, of course, our front counter, and this guy was there. But because we were so busy, and it was the end of the night, we had several people that were checking out their, paying and picking up their car. Maybe about a half dozen were in there at the time. And so right in front of the other 5 customers, this guy starts getting really ridiculous. And, he actually said, my wife doesn't have the right to authorize these repairs. And of course, trying to give the very best customer service that I can. I'm like, sir, I'm so sorry. If you left us instructions, we would only had called you. I do apologize, but the repair work's been done. And the guy's like throwing a fit. Another customer that was standing behind this guy puts his hand on the guy's shoulder, and he's like, sir, I believe you're being out of line. The guy just turned red, put his credit card out, signed it, and left. But that's a good point that even inside your very own same household, people can have different feelings for what's a lot to spend. And so just as a good rule of thumb, as a service advisor, is just remember, like, this is our professional obligation. We really don't have the right to make a choice for the customer. Plus, we're being paid to do a job. It's kind of like you go to the doctor and you have a sore throat, right? Every time you go to the doctor, there's a routine that happens typically. At least for me, my experience is I'll sit there and wait, and then when they call me back, they want to see how tall I am. Then they want me to step on the scales. They want to weigh me. They look in my ears, in my nose, my eyes. They look, down in my throat. They will take my blood pressure. Sometimes, not every time, they'll draw blood and make you pee in a cup. But they don't always draw blood and pee in a cup. But everything else typically happens on every single doctor's visit. Well, let's say I'm there for a sore throat. If the doctor finds out while I'm there that I have high blood pressure because of the blood pressure test they do when they're doing my maintenance inspection on me, of course, there's no way you're getting out of there without having that knowledge. And so it's a little bit scary when I see advisors take it upon themselves to not present things that a customer's needs on their vehicle. Also, we just don't have the right to withhold information from a customer in terms of their vehicle needs. I mean, that's our job. And so when you start changing your mindset about how you think about, because what happens is a lot of people are worried about, I don't want to upset this customer. But when they're doing that, they're thinking about it in terms of what they feel like is a lot to spend. And you have to understand, if you're basing it on what you as individual feels like is a lot to spend, now you're judging for all your customers when every single one of them has a very different number. And you're not going to know unless you try. And the great part about it is you don't have to even, take out the whole idea of making any decisions. Just understand you can't do that. What the technician turns in, you verify, you write it up, and you present it. Just get rid of the whole idea of weighing it out in your mind of whether or not it's expensive, or is this customer done spending money. Maybe they are, and if they are, that's okay, but it's still our job to talk to them about it. And maybe that's setting up for the next visit, or you're prioritizing it for them. You know what? We could do the struts today. We can come back and do the shocks, in 2 weeks from now or next month. And so just kind of, some to think about, kind of open up your eyes a little bit when we do this exercise. I think the most revealing thing that is always my takeaway every time I do this with a group of my service advisors during our training class is that it never fails that it's never the same person as the low person across the board on what they feel is willing to spend, and it's never the same person that's the high that spends the most on everything. Every time, somebody that spends willing to spend the most in one area also has another area where they have the smallest amount spent. It's just never fails. And so even with this exercise with just the 4 of us, imagine with 10 people, how many different numbers you're going to get to really hit home, if you do it with your team, to really hit home the idea that we all have a different line in the sand. And if we get scared to cross it with every customer, we're never going to live up to our potential, because that line is different for everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
that was really well delivered, Brian. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Wow, that is so cool. Oh my gosh, Brian, you're a genius. Chris, do you have any questions or feedback for Brian? Because wasn't this cool?
It was great. It's really the best engaging thing we've had since all the ones I've been through. But I have one question that was like started very early that I started to formulate, and I'm not sure. It's kind of like basically if you do exactly what you say, which is if in the shop they go ahead and say, look, here are what we really recommend you do, and here are the costs for it, and the customer is a bit hesitant to follow through with preventative maintenance. Is there any kind of tried and true phrase or short thing you would say that seems to reach those customers about making preventative maintenance a priority without panicking them?
Yeah, what I found is a really good way is using analogies with customers. A lot of times customers are a little fearful of the things they don't understand. And so, but what you can do is give an analogy to the customer that they do understand. A lot of our customers, well, depending on where your shops are located, you know, they're, if they are a homeowner, we know the expenses that go into to owning a home. And so, for example, if you're talking about, say, carbon buildup and doing an induction cleaning and breaking down all that carbon so it doesn't damage some of your sensors or create drivability issues on your car, you can actually compare that to soot in a chimney. And they might not understand carbon buildup and how that's a byproduct of a combustion engine, but they understand soot in a chimney and why it's important to clean that out. And so sometimes using an analogy will help them kind of go, oh, okay, I get it. Go ahead and do it. And then the other thing that I would say to that is comparing it to an oil change, right? That's oil changes are the number one most common maintenance items that cars get done
Right.
because of the frequency of it. So we're all familiar with it. And so, but and it's been ingrained in the United States for so long to change your oil every 3,000, and so people do it. They get it, right? They know it's bad not to, but then they'll neglect. They won't change the fluid in their transmission or the rear differential. And so a lot of times, just reminding the customer that, hey, you know what? It's just like changing the oil in your engine, only it doesn't need to be done as frequently. Now they kind of get it. I've actually had customers tell me, well, I don't have any problems with my transmission. And I'm like, well, that's the whole idea. We don't want you to have a problem with your transmission. I was like, what's wrong with your engine? Nothing. Well, you're here getting an oil change. So we don't wait for the transmission or the engine to have a problem before we do an oil change. And in today's cars, a lot of times an oil change can be more complex than servicing the transmission. And so it's a bigger dollar amount to do it. I think they're going to run about $300 on average to service a transmission versus maybe say a $50 number for an oil change. But you're only doing it every, 30, 60,000 miles as compared to every 3 to 5. And so it's like, it's actually less money when you break it down by how many miles you drive.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I found, Chris, to answer your question, that may help somebody that's to push them along with the importance of maintenance.
Thank you so much, Brian. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Mind blown. I love it. Renee, what did you take out of all this?
Well, I got just a great a greater understanding of how to kind of circle around back to, like, you can't judge a book by its cover, kind of, sort of. Some people will spend X on a watch, whereas for a sound system or a pair of glasses, they'll spend Y. And I think you can't really rely on external factors. I mean, someone may drive a BMW, but they may totally not take care of it. And so that doesn't necessarily mean that, like, everything's top of the line. They might place maintenance on a lower tier, or maybe because they're spending $5,000 on a home system, they can't take care of their car. So I think we have to be forthright and just present everything, because then, like Brian's saying, you have a job to do, and it's your responsibility to let them know that the one thing that they come in there for, which is their car, that's the only thing you can do, is just be upfront and tell them everything, and then let them decide. So it really just, you really can't judge, and then we shouldn't, and we should just do the work, and then go move forward from there and see what happens. So I thought that was well presented.
Thank you.
Yeah. And then also, I thought it was kind of fun to see that Renee and I are married, and it was interesting to see, like, oh, that's your number. I'm obviously the more spendy.
Well, I guarantee you, if we listed out, maybe another 10 items, it could change. It could be different.
Oh,
and I think,
I'm in the comic books. I've spent $200 on a single comic book.
Right, and I would never do that unless. Exactly. And like, okay, here's another one that's also kind of fun. Now, COVID is a little different because Renee has not cut his hair since February for various reasons. But prior to COVID, Renee was going and getting a haircut every 2 weeks. So Renee, how much did you spend on your hair for all these years? $20 each every 2 weeks?
$20, yeah, 20 every $3, 20 bucks maybe 3 weeks, every 3 weeks at the latest. But yeah.
And then I only go to the hair salon maybe like once every 5 months, and I get a $75 haircut. I do not dye my hair. I do not perm my hair. Like, it's just a haircut once, 3 times a year. That's it. So on a scale of things, Renee would actually, except for now, Renee would spend more money on his hair, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, if you look at the numbers, the numbers don't lie.
That's a COVID change for me. I would spend on my haircuts probably, well, it wasn't probably, it was $20 for a haircut for me. I would go weekly, but I always would tip like $5. So it's like $25 a time or $100 a month. But since COVID, I've been cutting my own. I'm actually getting pretty good at it. I don't think I'll ever spend another dime on a barbershop again. Just because it's like, well, now that I've already learned how to do this, I can get it done in 30 minutes. I'm just going to do my own. And now that kind of covers my son's allowance. So it's a wash. So I feel like I get my $20 back a week. So
that's funny. Oh yeah. And we've been looking a lot more. Like, prior to COVID, we could easily drop $1,500 a month on food because we'd go out most of the time and we'd cook, but it was mostly favoring the restaurants. since COVID, our budget is $900 per month on food. And that's hard because the inflation costs of food has gone up.
Yeah.
So really it's like, do I need to move my budget to $1,000 now? But you're absolutely right, Brian. This was a fun exercise. Thank you for bringing this to us. I hope everybody that's watching us is also enjoying this whole thing. Now, Brian, please share with us how we can get a hold of you and tell us what you're doing with UNet Results, because I want people to be able to do more of this with you if they wish.
Absolutely. So that's the name of my company, UNet Results. You can find us on the internet at unetresults.com. My name's Brian Gillis. Right now, I'm offering free strategy sessions that you can just click on a link on my website, and I'd be happy to meet with you. I coach shop owners. We look at all aspects of business, from management to leadership, financials, the people part. I do a great deal of service advisor training. So every month I do a 16-hour course. Right now, of course, it's virtual, and that's where I actually have the most fun. I enjoy that the most, just interacting with all the advisors on these classes. And so also we're doing free Tuesday webinars with shop owners can come in, and I like to encourage all shop owners to carve out a little time and get out of that vortex and spend some time actually working on your business instead of in it all the time. And things like when you start sitting around with other shop owners and sharing great ideas, you're missing out if you're not taking out some time to do that. And a lot of shops that your single shop owners, it can get lonely out there. And so by being in a group with other shop owners, it gives you soundboards and a place to bounce ideas off of with others, share some common struggles, some common goals, and different ways of having success. And so a lot of value in the group. And so I welcome everybody to come check us out at unetresults.com. And Jennifer, thank you so much, for having me a part of your virtual summit. Really enjoyed it. And I can't wait to be back on Friday for our panel with Carm.
Oh, that's going to be so fantastic, right?
Yes.
Oh, I know. Well, thanks again. And hey, everybody, thanks for joining us. This was super fun. And join us tomorrow. Bill Greeno, a shop owner up in Truckee, California, and a coach, he is going to be sharing some fantastic stuff with us as well. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. Again, same time, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday, the 11th. Hey, it's Veterans Day. I love it. Okay, cool. All right, everybody. Thank you so very much. We love you. And we'll see you guys later. Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.